All right, we're recording.
All right, we're ready to go. We'll jump in. Right?
Great.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us tonight for the webinar. So the topic today is going to be about recovering smarter and thinking stronger, and the idea behind the performance triangle. So it's not just training, it's training, mindset, and recovery. So we're going to touch upon those topics today. I'll just go keep going. So today we'll talk about why this matters, what recovery really means. We'll dive into the recovery mindset, setback script, and then just some takeaways from what we covered tonight. So first, digging into why this matters. So you don't rise to the level of your motivation. We all know this motivation changes day to day, week to week. You rise to the level of your systems and understanding, again, that there's a lot of things that come into play as an athlete and when it comes to fitness. So it's not just your physical training, your physical capabilities. Recovery doesn't just mean rest days. Mindset isn't just thinking like, today's going to be a great day, plays a role, but it goes a little bit beyond that. And ultimately, your performance lives at the intersection of all three of these elements to your training. So digging into what we're going to dive individually into each of these, and I'll keep it high level, but the idea is understand that recovery is adaptation and that this is where the real gains are made. The reality sometimes with recovery is that sometimes we become reactive instead of proactive, where we wait until our sleep is really starting to impact how we perform. Our nutrition is not fueling us properly for our workouts. Cold exposure, that's definitely one that I think is hit or miss for some people. Foam rolling mobility is, I'll just speak for myself. I'm absolutely reactive a lot of the time with that, where you wait until it's something's like a niggle is just yelling at you instead of just addressing it immediately. And then nervous system regulation. So as athletes, a lot of the time we're in our like sympathetic nervous system and we don't take time to calm things down and focus on our breath. So all of those elements are recovery and are important to your training, creating the physiological like adaptations that you want from them. All right. So sleep. This is oh gosh, now I can't remember who it was that was speaking, but they said something along these lines that sleep is literally like your strongest performance enhancement drug that is legal. So your sleep is going to have an impact on your hormone regulation, muscle repair, cognitive clarity, emotional stability. There are so many stats out there that talk to how much sleep we need. And unfortunately, and I think this might be starting to shift, we live in a society where sometimes it's like a badge of honor if you only need 4 hours of sleep or you only need 5 hours of sleep. But the reality is that sleeping less than 6 hours per night will create a significantly higher injury risk. Studies show that athletes who sleep less than 6 hours show up to 1.7 times greater risk of injury. And one night of sleep restriction can reduce glycogen storage. So that's going to have an impact on your training. For most adults, 7 to 9 hours is optimal. But for endurance athletes, we actually benefit closer to from 8 to 10 hours of sleep during heavy training blocks. So easiest way to increase your performance, prioritize your sleep, and you need to be treating sleep like it is essential, not like it's something that is optional. So visit your consistency with your sleep wake times. Aim for earlier sleep if you can during heavier training blocks. And does anybody nap? Anybody take naps ever? Okay, perfect. I took a nap for the first time in a long time, and I was like, holy smokes, I haven't done this in so long. But but even 20 to 30-minute naps can improve performance and alertness. So definitely an important element to your recovery. All right, nutrition, fuel, and repair. And Rich, I think this is something that you might also be able to chime in and speak to. No pressure, but I know that this is a topic that is one that you speak on. So nutrition is, oh,
Sorry.
that's all
Sorry
right.
about that.
That's all right.
There we go.
So you can't recover from what you don't refuel. So it's, when we think of nutrition, sometimes we just think of what we're eating before a workout and fueling us. But if you think about it, making sure that you're refueling after you've emptied the tank, it's not just, 24 hours before a key workout session or 4 hours before a key workout session. It's making sure that after that workout session, you're also refueling so that way you can recover. And before I go on, Rich, do you want to chime in at all on this slide?
And I'm actually going to make a point about the previous slide too, about sleep.
Yeah.
It's I got a couple of points actually I'm going to make. One is
Getting a book?
this this book by Christy Ashwandon. She's actually been a guest on the podcast. The title of the book is called Good to Go. You can see all of the dog ears on that. Christy takes 300 and this is a study on every recovery modality that there is, and it takes 285 pages for her to eventually say the only thing that really, really, really works is sleep. And if you ever want a wake-up call on all of the health issues that happen, increased cortisol, decreased decreased your inability to make good decisions about anything, including your body, what you take in, decisions about nutrition. This is the tie into nutrition, come from a lack of sleep. One of the other guests that we've had on the podcast is Dr. Kirk Parsley, a retired Navy SEAL. And he was a physician treating Navy SEALs. He was a SEAL himself. And he had patients, soldiers that came in with all sorts of issues, from honestly from alcohol abuse, right? From bad decisions that they're making around like taking care of themselves, to forgetting things, to making operational errors that can cost lives. And what he later found, he decided to go and go back to school and specialize on sleep, because what he started to conclude that the common denominator in all of these symptoms that these soldiers were showing was in part rooted in the 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 interrupted sleep patterns that they had. They never, because of it, it's kind of like shift work only on steroids, only worse, right? Because you're, I don't have to tell you, Zed, right? I'm sure that you know what it's like to be deployed and on duty for long, long periods of time, really driving yourself to exhaustion and not getting the proper sleep. And what he found was that was really the common issue behind all of these symptoms that these soldiers were showing. He even went so far as to say, like, if you were to, like, right now not eat, drink, or sleep, like starting right now, you would probably die from lack of sleep before you would die from lack of hydration. Your body, your system, your organs, everything would eventually start to shut down.
Mhm.
So, I just want to put an emphasis on sleep before talking about the timing of nutrition. This is the other half of the equation, right? You need that rest, but you also need that fuel for repair, as Coach Lauren was saying. You know, in you put in a hard effort and you don't refuel, your glycogen stores are could be critically low depending on how long and how intense that workout is. And now you're not sleeping. Your body just will not adapt. Yeah, it's really just going to start to actually really kind of lose function as opposed to increasing function. So, all of these points, nutrition, hydration, the macro, getting in the proper macros and anti-inflammatory foods to help repair damaged cells. You are what you eat, and you will not repair without sleep.
Thank you, Rich. I knew you'd have some. And when you said that book, I was like, that is exactly where I heard the stat with sleep. As soon as you brought that book out, by the way, that is because we had a conversation and you brought that book out. So
Good to go.
I love it. And yeah, with the nutrition side of things too, I think a lot of athletes and people in general like grossly overestimate how much protein they eat and underestimate how many carbs they eat. So it's like everyone thinks that they're eating more protein and that they're eating like less carbs. And it's like you need to make sure that both of those are on point because I was just having a conversation with a client about this where if you're not eating enough, your body's going to break down itself to get what it needs, which is just making you lose muscle mass and not recover. So it all goes hand in hand. And the reality is when, if you fill your plate with a lot of color, you'll likely get a lot more anti-inflammatory foods in there. So I always say it's like crowd out all the crap, the processed food, and fill it with colorful food and protein and carbs, and you're in a good spot of respecting and honoring your body and what it needs. So, all right, moving on to I think we're going to be moving on. Yep, cold plunge. All right, so cold plunge, I think gets a little bit of a mixed bag with being used as recovery. And there's, I guess, two sides of it where cold plunge can reduce inflammation. On the same breath, you don't always want to be reducing inflammation. So it can help with reducing soreness. But I always say well, this is one of those things that you want to be mindful of the timing and how you're applying it to your training and your recovery. For example, you don't want to do a cold plunge right after doing a serious like strength training program because that can blunt hypertrophy. So something to keep in mind. But I think actually cold plunge is almost a little bit more onto the mental side of things, where if we're looking at our like how it trains your nervous system resilience and improves stress tolerance. So for me, I lean towards the side of cold plunge can be great. It can feel great after a hard workout, but it really depends on. I'm going to say one more thing, and then like even for women versus men, the temperature of the cold water. So there's a couple different caveats that come into place when you're thinking about cold exposure and if a female is doing it, the temperature should probably be closer to around 50 degrees versus if a male is using it, and also the timing around your workouts. And Coach April, I want you to be able to chime in. I see your hand
No,
is
no,
up.
no. My hand went up on accidentally. Keep
Oh, okay.
going.
Wait, let me really quickly just not lose my thought. Sorry. Okay. But
Trying to turn it
all
off.
right. So then I'll just continue with what I was saying with the as far as timing. So like after races, after long intervals, if you have back-to-back hard days, again, it can help with inflammation, but you want to be mindful of how much you're trying to blunt inflammation because that is a natural response that you want your body to go through. On the mental side, cold plunge can also improve alertness and mental resilience. Another thing to keep in mind if you are leveraging cold plunge, going back to sleep because it is all going to tie back to making sure you get sleep, is that because it can have a stimulating effect. So it can impact your sleep if you're doing a cold plunge too close to your bedtime. So those are just some things, lean into it more for the nervous system and the stress response as opposed to strictly for recovery. And then, okay, foam rolling and mobility. So this is one where I'm just going to speak from my own personal experience, because I find it to be the unsexy work that we do for recovery, where it is, it sometimes can feel like it takes discipline, but mobility is huge for any sort of human. If you're a human, you need to have mobility, because your mobility is your own ability to move your joint through a full range of motion. So it's not flexibility. It's not an outside force pressing your joint into a movement. It is your muscular control to move around your joint. So that obviously plays a role in how you perform running, cycling, and swimming. When it comes to foam rolling or any sort of deep tissue work, that is where I'm just going to speak from my own personal experience. When that starts to become something that gets let go of, that is where you might start running into issues where the actual mechanics around your joint are compromised due to the your muscles pulling on your joints in like a misaligned way, I'll say. So I say this because this is like, again, I'm talking to myself when it comes to the foam rolling side of things. So even if you can put aside 5 to 10 minutes a day to foam roll, do mobility work, or do one or the other, it can really reduce DOMs. So if you're strength training, or even if you're doing a hard effort on hills or on the bike, it can reduce your delayed onset muscle soreness. If you're doing foam rolling, that can also help repair the range of motion around a joint, right? So it can increase the range of motion without decreasing strength output. And regular mobility work will help to reduce overuse injury in repetitive sports, which we see a lot of between swim, bike, and run. And I do want to pause and also, again, toss it to Coach Rich or Coach April if you have anything to chime in on with foam rolling or cold plunging.
We'll go ahead and talk about my experience with these.
Mm-hmm.
First, cold plunging, great for reducing inflammation. Great for kind of a like if you've ever done done a workout where your knees feel swollen and your body aches. It is an incredible turnaround to get in a cold plunge or do the poor man's version of it and just get in the bathtub, and what I like to do is like I'll just fill the water with cold water as I'm sitting in the tub. My body gets kind of used to it, but I've got a bag of like a good 20-pound bag of ice sitting there ready to be opened once the water has, kind of gotten over my hip level. And it helps you kind of make the adjustment. It feels a little like it's a little bit of a shock initially, but man, once you get over that and you get out, like you feel 100% better. It's reducing that inflammation. Now it does it does reduce the inflammation, which is good, but you also need the circulation to get blood flow going, right? So how do you reduce inflammation but get circulation going? Once you've reduced that inflammation, you can actually warm up that muscle tissue, either by a heating pad or something of that effect that'll start to warm up that muscle, or you can foam roll, or a combination of the two. And the foam rolling helps get that hydration going through the muscle tissue. It starts, I mean, it takes blood pressure to push blood into the muscle cells. But, it doesn't really it takes a fair amount of pressure to get it circulating and really flushing the muscles. That foam rolling really helps to do a couple of things. It helps kind of work out some of the stickiness that the muscle tissue might do. It starts to adhere to itself. Muscle cells start to adhere to themselves. They start to adhere to the fascia. And that's where you start to feel those knots that start to occur. That foam rolling helps hydrate the tissue, helps push that blood flow through the tissue. So when you're foam roll, hydrate and move and foam roll at the same time. All three of those things in combination will really help that recovery, the rehydrating of the muscle, the getting nutrients and blood flow into the damaged cells that are trying to repair. That's my 2 cents.
I'll just add in two things here with the cold plunging. So I appreciate you bringing up the female perspective on this too, Lauren, because I've found for me and some of the athletes that I've worked with who are women, it's kind of shocking at times to not only the feel of cold, but the not feeling the immediate effect, the positive effect, and oftentimes being stressed more because of it. So what I do instead of a straight cold plunge is I'll just put direct ice pressure to the affected area. So like Coach Rich said with the bag of ice, I find that to be more effective for me versus shocking the system. But there are some things, some science around how cold plunging specifically can help fight depression, can help with mood stability and changing mood. So I found that to be really encouraging and interesting. One of the things that I did when I was a competitive powerlifter, when I was actually in a meet, and the meet was lasting all day because it was a pro meet, um, I had about 2 hours before I was going to deadlift, and I had already put up some awesome numbers for squat and bench press. But I was shot by the time my bench or my deadlift, and that's my strongest lift. And so what I did was I went back to my hotel room and took a contrast shower. And that for me was extremely stimulating, not only for my nervous system, but for those tired muscles that I was experiencing before I went and pulled 350 off the floor at a meet. And was really happy with that change because there was a point where I was like, I don't even know if I can do this last event. So I find that contrast showers can be really helpful for that immediate change in state if you are looking for um, either recovery or for being able to simulate, get that recovery, but also that nervous system stimulate so you can perform as needed. So that's one of my favorite techniques is contrast shower.
I think 350.
Yeah, yeah. Pulled 350 at 160 pounds. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, I've come a long way. Yeah, that was one of my favorite ever meets too. I got to meet a lot of my legends in powerlifting. I actually, one of the first podcast episodes that we did together, Rich, you quoted one of the godfathers of powerlifting, Louis Simmons, who talks about big is not strong, strong is strong. And it goes a long way when you think about like what it means to be able to show strength without looking like a power lifter. So,
All right. Any other questions, comments, or anything before we move on? Good, right?
I guess what I'll also maybe react to the supports longevity. Your tissues, your cells have an age, they have a lifespan. And the better you take care of those cells, the longer they are going to last. There's a cellular, not a cellular, it's a DNA strand actually called telomeres. It's the repeating strands of DNA that are in a cell. And the longer they are, the younger the cell is. And over time, as cells age and divide and age and divide and age and divide, over time, those telomeres get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. The way that you can reduce the lifespan of a cell, and think any cell, right? Lung cell, muscle cell, hair cell, whatever. They're all cells. They all have DNA and they all have telomeres at the end of those DNA strands. When those get down to zero, they no longer can replicate and they die.
Mm.
And so that is what you see when you see over time your hair going gray, your skin getting wrinkled. Those are visible cells that are starting to get senescent over time. The same things can happen inside our bodies, and they result from, you know, things like, I mean, you think of right, like smoking, drinking, stress, lack of sleep. All of those things cause stress that cause cells to die at a faster rate than they would if you take care of them. So all of this stuff is also good for cellular longevity, and cellular longevity translates into, our physical, our, just human longevity. So
Love the science. I love the bringing in of the DNA, Coach Rich.
I,
It
I'm a
goes
nerd.
it does. Nerds are welcome here. All right. Coach Lauren, ready to move on here?
Ready to move on? Yep.
So we've talked a lot about recovery, and we've talked about those preventable tools that we can use to keep us from falling into the red zone of getting injured, of getting sick, of those setbacks, right? There's one other thing that we wanted to talk about tonight, and that is guarding your mindset when a setback happens. It's not if, it's when, right? If you've been in this long enough, you're going to experience some type of setback, whether that's an injury, or someone had a personal loss in your family, or it's monetary. It can be a whole host of things that cause us to lose ground or to stay stagnant, right? So, one of the things that we want to do before that happens is bulletproof our minds to get us ready and build that mental armor. I'm going to wink at you, Zed, because I know you know what I'm talking about here. We talk about mental resilience, build the armor to help us with not only recovering, but being able to withstand and move forward from a setback. So, one of my favorite tools that I've learned through one of my favorite books, which is Tools of Titans from Tim Ferriss, and it's a book that incorporates all the things that heroes, titans of their sports, their arenas. It's a shared collective of all the things that they've learned to improve and optimize their performance. And one of the things in the book was learning how to prepare for a setback before it even starts. And the tool that was introduced is the setback script. So, what we're going to go over in the next couple of slides is how to create your own setback script. And it can be all about what you anticipate as well as what maybe you're not anticipating, and putting yourself in the growth zone to feel uncomfortable and also work through it so that when that happens, whether it's a total devastation or it's a life hiccup, you are rooted in what you need to do to respond. Yes, you're going to feel all the feels. You're going to go through all those moments where doubt or anger might present itself, but you also have the ability, once we get past that initial trigger or response, you'll have the ability to lean on a tool like this to help you move through. So you're not staying in neutral and you're not going backward. So, first things first here, before we get into the script, is just walking through the steps of understanding what to do when life goes sideways, when you get that curveball thrown at you. So, first things first is acknowledging it, letting it be what it is, and being honest with what it is. allowing yourself to feel those feelings, whether it's sadness, anger, resentment, fear, right? Those things are allowed to and should be allowed to be felt. And then you start working into uh, how do we move forward from here? So, first things first is you're going to remind yourself that you're strong. You've survived 100% of your hardest days at this point, right? You have experienced things that might have knocked someone else completely out of the ring. You are strong. Your identity is bigger than this moment. Just because this thing happened doesn't erase all the things that were you've been planting and watering and growing over your life. So it doesn't just uproot that and wash it all away. You're patient. There are going to be seasons of change. And recovery doesn't mean that you are regressing. One of the things I love about Coach Lauren that she has shared through her experiences with recovery is just understanding that recovery is also a season. It doesn't mean that your performance has to just go away. You're now performing in a different arena. You're performing in the arena of recovery, which gives you the ability to focus and set goals around things that are going to get you back to where you need to be. So instead of, hey, this just totally knocked me out of my 2026 season, no, my season shifted. Now my goal is here and how I'm going to get stronger so that this doesn't happen again. Um, your setback script can help create that space between the immediate action and then how you respond to it. So if you have tools in your toolkit that can give that space between, oh my gosh, this triggering event just totally knocked me out, and how do I react? Stressed, losing sleep, not eating, isolating myself. This gives you space so that you are not leaning into those undesirable coping behaviors. You're able to process through without getting derailed. And then learning how to master that recovery, turning that weakness into a specialization. I bet that with the growth-minded people in this room, if they were to be put in a situation where something got taken away, whether it was the ability to train or it was an injury or illness, um, that growth mindset would kick in to force an adaptation where you specialize in something else. You don't just lose your entire self-worth because there was a shift or a setback. So the other thing about this is that we are also role models for resilience. Learning how to model resilience in real time is what gives people the ability to see that they can also do the same thing. One of the things I loved about being a power lifter, and I know I keep going back to this, but I also just think about how much this had a foundational um, building block for me to feel like I can overcome setbacks, is just knowing that there were little girls often in the audience that would see me doing these things and be like, I want to do that someday. That's so cool. And I didn't know you could be that strong. And then modeling what that looks like to be able to tap into strength and um, be that positive light, even when there are injuries would occur or things would throw me off. So that was super important again for navigating like who's watching you, who's drawing inspiration from you. You don't even know it at times, but people are looking to see you how you respond to adversity. So couple of reminders here. You are not your current performance. I'm sure everyone here can attest to the waves that happen throughout the seasons, and that you're not always going to be at optimal performance. You have to allow yourself to go through those levels of change. And then you are the person who responds. So, yes, things are going to happen. Wrenches are going to get thrown at you. There's going to be things that are out of your control. But what's in your control is how you choose to respond to that triggering event, how you choose to close the gap between the trigger and the consequences of your actions. So we're going to go next to the application portion. Or actually, let me ask from the audience here, anything that sparked some thoughts or some insights or personal reflection?
None for me, April. although I don't want to go too sideways.
Oh, I hear that.
Hopefully, my coach will assist me in staying from getting too sideways.
Yes.
This is a familiar topic. We're talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Yeah.
we started with the sleep stuff. I'm like, is he picking on me? Is that this is like a
You're feeling a little
passive aggressive
convicted.
way of telling me to pay attention or what?
Love that. Zed, I see you
Um,
came off.
yeah, so I've been doing a lot of, um, I guess, cultivating the Star Wars philosophy of Sith when it
Oh,
comes to my
wow.
training because I know that sounds kind of
No, I
like
love
dark,
it.
but um, one thing that the Sith are known for is like being in tune with their emotions instead of suppressing them like the Jedi.
Mm,
And one thing that they do is when they meet adversity or some kind of challenge, they use that as an opportunity to cultivate their ability to remain resilient in the middle of chaos. And actually, um, by overcoming that chaos or some kind of setback or pain, they become stronger when they come out on the other end. So,
mm.
I like these tenets that you have, or I don't know if they're these points rather.
Oh, I love
They kind
tennis.
of align, they
Good work.
align with, they align with what I'm currently studying when it comes to the fantasy world. And this, I had a it was a power builder workout, and I was thinking to myself, Coach Rich is being evil right now. I just came off of my Valentine's Day vacation, and I see this on my schedule. Okay, let's do it. So when it got to the tough intervals, I started to welcome the challenge
Mm,
as opposed to rejecting it.
mm,
So by overcoming these intervals, I know that I've already awakened in my latent DNA, what Coach Rich was talking about, the
mm,
ability to be in that challenge and actually be strong in that challenge, even though it's uncomfortable.
mm.
That's
That's
all I
so
have.
good. That is
Yeah.
so good. Yep. Coaches
I'm going to
Lauren?
share, yeah, so I'll share that for well, I love all of these ideas. They honestly all resonate, but when you say that this creates space and what have you been neglecting, I always go back to the idea that when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And for me, as I've gone through like recovery or seasons or periods that aren't going the way that I wanted them to go, it's usually because I was saying yes to something and saying no to something else. And that could have been that I was saying yes to training a little bit longer when I should have ended a workout early and taken time to do recovery. Or I said yes to going out and doing something when I should have been getting to sleep on time. And I think it's important to always just take that as feedback moving forward, not as um, a, a reflection of who I am and as an athlete or as a person. It's just it's feedback. But I always enjoy the reminder of that. If you're creating space for, if you're saying yes to something, you said no to something else, and that's not good or bad, but it's just the reality of life and of training. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. Coach Rich, anything you want to add?
I'd be strangely, I don't know. I think you guys said it all. I really, I mean, you need to be able to forgive yourself
Hmm.
also, and it's noble to want to, you know, hey, I want to make up the world. I want to make up, for what I missed or what went wrong. But sometimes it's better just to let it go and just look forward and not
Mm,
look back.
hmm.
So,
Yeah. Well said. I also just want to shout out with Lauren here with the thought around the question, what are you neglecting? Sometimes if we don't pay attention to those things, they're going to pop up and we can no longer neglect them. So yes, it's one of those things that this is a good reminder that if we're not paying attention to these signals and asking these questions, it's just a matter of time when we're going to be forced to have to look at it. So thinking about this in the terms of how to move into an actual application or applicable tool in creating this setback, we're going to go through a activity called the setback script. And I'm going to give you a couple of caveats or points of reference here. So first things first is you're going to process that emotion. You're going to go Sith Lord all on it and help yourself grieve it. Say it out loud, even talk to someone about it so that that acknowledgement happens. And then you can move forward with a plan. That could be meeting with a PT. It could be defining those milestones. Okay, I would like to set goals around this instead of the thing that I originally had. Now I'm going to focus on this. Redesigning what your next 6 to 8 weeks looks like, depending upon how long this cycle or season should be. And then start to build something, start to create and move towards your own sense of control and purpose over what this phase looks like. Choose who you are becoming, right? Are you going to be fortified through this experience because you've built the strength now due to the adversity? Or are you going to be frustrated and stagnant because of it? So you have the choice to decide how you're going to move forward. And the next thing I'm going to show you is the actual tool, which I will put in the chat after we go through it, and show you what it looks like in action.
April, where's number 6? Says call your coach.
Sure. Talk to someone. It's a number 1. Love it. All right, just pulling up on my side here. Oh, I thought I had it downloaded. There we go. Okay. So this first part is just kind of laying out what it looks like when it's before it's filled in. But what you're going to do is basically you're writing to yourself in the future for different situations. The way that I approached this was I wrote it in the future if I were to experience an injury that was prolonged 6 to 8 weeks recovery time. And this is how I wrote it to remind myself that, hey, you're going to get through this, April. It's going to be okay, right? So in the beginning, you'll write to your name. If you're reading this, then you just had a setback. You're going to insert what happened. You had a major injury that requires 6 to 8 weeks of recovery and no training. Whatever it is, acknowledge it, feel it, and let me remind you of a few things. You're going to list out your reminders. Okay? Here's my reminders to me if this ever happens. I'm strong. As a powerlifter, I competed at a national level with an 800-pound raw total and a 350 deadlift. You deployed 3 combat zones, finished an Ironman, qualified as a marksman. That's a hell of a range to cover with excellence and expertise. So there's my evidence to support that statement. Here's your second statement. You're patient. You know that there are times of plenty and there are times of scarcity. There are times of heaven and times of hell. Time is the great equalizer, and as long as you continue to put your recovery first, you will be back. Next, remember that you can finally get those tattoos you wanted. So for me, this is a big reminder that if I can't swim or if I can't do Ironman training, I can finally get that full sleeve I wanted to get because at this point, like, hey, I don't have any limitations there. Remember, this is an opportunity to get good at recovery. You can focus on learning more about your individual needs and commit to addressing them. Remember, this is an opportunity to role model resilience to those you have the privilege to lead, influence, and inspire. Then you're going to create your own checklist. Reach out to your loved ones to process this change, follow up with PT, create a new plan, set a new target. And then quotes to remember. These are really inspiring to me. You can find your own that call to your resilience, call you to uprise from this moment. But that's the bones of the setback script. And you can do this over and over and over again for different scenarios to give you as much leverage that you need to help you process through setbacks. So what I'll do next is I'm going to put this in the old chat box, and you can use this as a tool for yourself moving forward.
Thank you.
Yes, that is my contribution here to tonight's webinar. Any thoughts or inspirations or ahas from this moment?
I might have missed it because, me, I'm always in and out. I'm thinking about, do we have a Grit to Greatness creed? I don't know if we
Ooh.
have one. Something that we
We
could
have our
say
values,
when
but
we
we
all
could definitely,
assemble
yeah, and that's a
and we
great
just,
that.
before we start our meetings or webinars, the Grit to Greatness creed, and then we say it. And just to activate, maybe that's the soldier in me, but
Oh,
just
I
to
like it.
activate that Grit to Greatness value system that we're cultivating in this space.
I love that.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Team.
A
Like
creed.
we should have one ready for our next meeting.
Yes.
No, we should have a contest.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Help us come up with our creed. Here are our values, which, we shared earlier, but help us create the creed. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's got to have Sith in it, though. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Sith Lord. Yeah.
Zen, are you referring to the guy that's in the red and black face and has like the double lightsaber dude?
Darth
Oh,
Maul.
Darth Maul, that's the guy, that's the Sith Lord I grew up on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the coolest characters in Star Wars, I believe. But
Agreed.
yeah.
Okay.
That it?
Yeah, that is it. That is our presentation for tonight.
Hey, I have a question on the recovery pieces. Talked about cold plunge. What is everyone's thoughts on the sauna piece? I
I
don't
love
have
this.
one,
Love it.
but people's thoughts on it. When and where is it appropriate?
I mean, I do contrast therapy with cold plunge and sauna, and that I love doing that. So I'll always do. There's actually a Russian banya, but that I go to by me, and the sauna goes up to like 200 degrees.
Oh wow.
So I'll go in there if I can last for. I don't know if I've ever lasted for a full 15 minutes straight in there, but I would say they're they're both beneficial. I had a guy on one of my podcasts who was talking. I wish I could pull up some of the content that he shared with all of the benefits with even like your heart rate, your blood pressure. But there's also contraindications when it comes to the sauna to keep in mind. So I don't want to say like, oh, it's perfect for everyone. And same thing for cold plunge, honestly. So I will just add this caveat, I guess I'll say that because I've had reactions going back and forth between doing like contrast therapy where my blood pressure from going into the cold water and coming out and my body's ability to bring my temperature back down made me almost feel like I was going to faint. So it is there are things to keep in mind. This is just an aside, I guess, to all of it. But for me, using the sauna, I enjoy doing it in a way to just if like for me, like my knee, I'm having issues with where the cold therapy helps, but for me, going in the sauna helps with my mobility and my like ability to warm up even before a workout. And I know I have a client who she's a stretch client of mine, but she'll always use it to help with her mobility and being able to like work into her tissues. So it absolutely has a place in recovery.
I love cold plunge, hugely addicted to it, but I don't have the sauna piece.
I think they're both I believe that they both also have a mental resiliency aspect of it, because the sauna, even like I mean, I'm a by nature prefer the heat, so I could sit in 200 degrees for probably longer than maybe some people would want to. But April, you're like, heck no, man.
Throw me in the cold.
Yeah. But what I do when I do the sauna, then I'm like, oh, I could totally last in the cold plunge. But they both definitely serve a mental, like, kind of sitting through the discomfort of it.
Is there a better time for them? Let's just stick on sauna. Is there a better time for sauna? Is it when you get up? Is it when you finish the day? Where is that best applied?
I mean, I would say if you were doing one earlier in the day versus one later in the day, doing the sauna later in the day and the cold plunge earlier in the day would be the ideal, just based on
Right.
like what's happening with your nervous system. And even so, like a hot shower at the end of the day, they'll always say so your body by nature, your body temperature drops right when you're going to sleep, and that's why most people do better with cold, dark rooms. And when you take a hot shower, it supports your body cooling down, even though that might not seem like
No, I understand. Yeah, I got you.
But yeah, but it forces your body to start doing what it naturally wants to do before going to sleep. So you like a hot shower an hour before bed will most likely, for most people, help you sleep deeper.
Yeah. The increased body temperature, the body wants to correct that. So it starts to cool the body down.
Mm-hmm.
And that cooling of the body down gets you that lower body temperature. It's like a roller coaster. It's like what goes up must come down. And it corrects and brings you down to that cooler body. It's kind of a cool physiology.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate the engagement with us too, and the good questions and reflections. I'm definitely going to start exploring this Sith philosophy and the creed. Oh,
Yeah, the creed has got to have
Yeah.
Sith and cold plunge now, I think.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Zed, I'm not supposed